'Cause I've been busy,
What's up guys, my name's Noah and you're watching The Productive Producer. We did a video a couple weeks ago on reverb, which you could watch right there. I wanted to do a video this week on Ableton's reverb specifically. A lot of people think it sucks, and that's what I thought too for a long time. So I wanted to dive in a little bit deeper into reverb and find out if it really sucks. We're gonna take a look at some of the overlooked details of the Ableton reverb. Guys, don't forget to, if you really like this video, consider hitting subscribe. We're a growing channel right now and every subscriber helps. And you guys watching the videos, you're watching right now, and that means a lot to me. So I appreciate it. I'll stop yammering on so we can get into some reverb discussion. All right, let's put on the headphones. So, we have our, I have a sound right here that sounds like this. Really simple. It's just a serum. I have it set to be like sort of like a pluck. Let's actually do this. Okay. So I wanted the sound to be really simple so we could see what this thing is doing. So if you may not have noticed it before, but Ableton's reverb is split into 4 parts. There's the input processing, the early reflections, the global, and the diffusion network. When I was doing the research for this video, I discovered one really cool knob. I didn't even realize it was there. I never used it before, and now that I found it, I'm really kicking myself for not taking the time to learn about this reverb sooner. So let's dive in right now. So the input processing, we're just gonna go through what these knobs do here. The input processing, this is sort of like an EQ for the inside of the reverb. So it's not gonna affect the sound itself, like right here. It's not gonna affect the sound at all. It's only gonna affect what the reverb hears from the sound. So if we want only high frequency sounds, and this is just the cutoff, you could think of that as a cutoff knob. This is sort of like the Q knob on a regular EQ. Same controls over here on the other side for the high cut. Most reverbs have that at some level. But right here we have the pre-delay. This is also a really common thing with most reverbs. The pre-delay is measured in milliseconds, and the most natural sounding is going to be between 1 millisecond and 25 milliseconds. Once you pass that, it starts to get weird. But that's still pretty cool. Like, you could get some really cool results out of that, like some maybe chord stabs, just like some really sharp shug, and then it kind of sucks out of the room and comes back in. You know, you do some really cool experimentation with that. But that just controls how late the delay can come in. The early reflection section is focused on the front part of the reverb. And the diffusion network, you would think of diffusion as when you spray Febreze, right? When you spray the Febreze, it sprays it out and it seems to just disappear. And that's the same thing what this reverb is doing. And the early reflections are right where the Febreze comes out of the bottle. Sorry if that was a terrible example. But so we can add some, what this is called spin. It's supposed to emulate the pitch drift that you'll get in some rooms, in some really reflective rooms. The shape knob affects the amount of early reflections in the reverb. It controls how many of those early reflections fade into the background. So the lower value we have, it's really hard to hear, even with headphones on. I mean, this is something that I probably would have thought maybe Ableton could have skipped, but they probably found a good use for it. I just haven't found a good use for it in my music yet. So maybe you have. If you have a good use for the shape knob on the reverb, let me know in the comments. Okay, let's go into the global tab right here. Here we can switch between these 3 modes right here. Eco is your CPU friendly reverb, and the high quality reverb is the highest quality reverb. You're gonna get the best sounding reverb with the high quality reverb, obviously, but it eats up a little bit more CPU. So if you need to make some trade-offs there. That's a good place to start. And the mid is a mixture between the two. Less CPU power, also less quality. Pretty straightforward with that one. The size. The size is a knob that emulates how big the room is. It's pretty easy to understand, but you can get some really cool textures bringing the size down. You can even bring the decay down like this. And get like a really cool spacey tone that you wouldn't get without this. It sounds like it's in a real room. By increasing the size, you just get a bigger sound. Let's keep it at high quality. Okay, so now we move on to the stereo knob right here, and this just controls the stereo width of the reverb. So if you're having some mono compatibility issues, just pull this guy down. The more you pull it up, the wider your reverb gets. Decay time, we already knew what that is. That's just how long the reverb lasts before it turns to, or before it fades to, I think it's like negative 60 dB. Okay, so now the diffusion network. So you might be thinking that the diffusion network is pretty much the same thing, because we can low pass this. And high pass it just like we did before, right? Well, it doesn't control those early reflections. This is just on the late reflections. We're controlling. Let's pull that decay time up a little bit. You can kind of hear how it sweeps a little bit. It's going. And we can use that shape right there to control like how many reflections are coming in. So that's just part of the diffusion network, right? This is all controlling those late reflections at the very end of the reverb tail. So let's move on to this next box over here, which is the chorus. So this is sort of like the spin, where it adds like a little bit of a flangey effect. I mean, it's a chorus, right? So if you know what a chorus effect is, you know what this is doing. And then you could get some really cool textures with this on like chords and pads and stuff. Like adding this to the reverb can really bring out that richness to the sound. For this particular sound, you could kind of hear that pitch warble there at the end. Sort of similar to what this spin is doing here. But in a different way almost. Gives it a different character. Okay, let's go up to the reflect knob here. So this, you can kind of hear at the very beginning, there's that little, it sounds like a glug. Those are the early reflections. The diffuse knob just amplifies the diffusion, which is basically just the reverb tail. You can hear how it kind of goes like that. Right? We don't even have the pre-delay up. We brought it down. We could bring it all the way down. So you can really shape this reverb quite a bit. And you guys know what the dry wet is. Come on. So the scale controls the coarseness. You could sort of think of this as like a dampening knob. Some plugins have a damp knob on them, which is essentially sort of just like a low shelf that will sort of reduce those higher frequencies, those harsher frequencies. So you turn it all the way up, darkens the sound a little bit. Again, just sort of like the shape knob, it's not a really overt knob, and which is I think part of the reason why people have overlooked this reverb, because there seems to be a lot of stuff in here that just doesn't make any sense. We'll talk about what my thoughts are on the reverb at the end of the video. But now we're gonna get to the knob right here, this density knob. I'm thinking you could really come up with some cool effects some really cool sounding stuff using this knob. Check this out. So I'll take the density, bring it all the way down. Let's even pull that diffusion down a little bit. That's cool. Goes, go, whoa. Bring it up, it doesn't do that anymore. I love that. Super cool. I like it. So yeah, that's a tour of this reverb, guys. It's really simple and straightforward, and I mean, unfortunately, these two knobs don't really do a whole lot, but at least not really audibly, nothing that I could hear after messing around with it. So what are my thoughts on this reverb? I think that it is massively underused. This is such a great reverb to use. It's easy on your CPU because it's running in Ableton. You don't have to run a third-party reverb for this. It's effective because it gets the job done. I mean, granted, we're not talking like this isn't some Pro R or Valhalla Room or Vintage Verb, right? It doesn't have all the coloring and that sort of thing, but it's a good functional reverb that's not gonna kill your CPU. And that has value to me. I've been progressively using this reverb more and more and more. It's really becoming a part of my daily workflow, and I'm realizing that I've just been wasting so much CPU on third-party reverbs for way too long. So I'm gonna be using this more, and I think you should too. And I also think you should click like on this video and subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. New videos every Friday, guys. Haven't missed a Friday since the start of 2020, and don't plan on missing any Fridays from here on out. So I'll see you guys next week. Peace. 'Cause I've been busy.